and welcome back to this week's episode of Since I Was Young, a podcast dedicated to all things Heart of Midlothian. We are back this evening on the day of the Craig Gordon testimonial match that took place earlier on this afternoon at Tynecastle, where Hearts ran out somewhat surprisingly, or certainly in my mind somewhat surprisingly, 3-0 winners. We will obviously touch on that game as well as our thoughts on the Premier Sports Cup group stage, which has concluded with our last game taking place where we took on Dumbarton and won predictably by 4-0, as is the Hearts way at the moment. Score 4 goals or it's just not acceptable. But yes, we will dive into those, our thoughts on that, as well as just our sort of general thoughts on pre-season, and we will give our much anticipated and every year much maligned predictions that we get wrong every single year, and I'm sure this year will be no different. But we're here to to embarrass ourselves in that regard and claim a player of the season performance after 2 games, only for that player to disappear off the face of the earth for the remainder of the season. But yes, we will jump into all that as we go along. Before we do so though, folks, you can see them run along the bottom of the screen there, our social links. If you want to head across to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, we're across all of them at SIWIPod. You can also reach out to us on Kickback. I'm trying to be a bit more active on there over the last few weeks, talking mainly nonsense, but it is what it is. That's my I feel like that's my MO at the moment. So yes, as I say, on the bottom of the screen there you can see all of our links, and whilst you're down there, head into the comment section and leave us a little comment and let us know your predictions for the season ahead when we get to that stage of this week's episode. But yes, John, all said and done, how are you doing this evening?
I'm bright as hell, that's how I'm doing. I'm a bit too bright. Let me quickly close this over.
Yeah, John is coming to us live from the surface of the sun, folks, today. John is currently in the middle of rearranging of the office, am I right? So I think things are a little bit all over the shop, but yeah, professional as ever here at Since I Was Young. But yes, we'll get back in touch with John when he's finished closing a window, I think is what's going on over there. Is that better? I can see you now. That's a bit better.
Yeah, that'll just have to do. We wasted enough time on this.
That's all right. That's what we do over here. But yeah,
hello, Alan. How are you doing? I'm all right. Just a couple of nights ago, I was out your way. We took in the Dumbarton game in person. Nice wee evening out at the park, as it turned out. It's always a pleasure to see your good self. Since then, I've just been back in my usual existential nightmare that I live from day to day.
So dark, such a dark start to the episode. I don't really know where
dark.
To go from
it's a bit too bright, if anything.
Very good. I like that. Yeah, I'll pretend I meant that segue there. But yeah, like I said, today, day of recording is Saturday, the 26th of July, and today at Tynecastle we had obviously the Craig Gordon testimonial for, well, in my view, certainly in my lifetime anyway, the best goalkeeper that Hearts have produced and that Hearts have had on their books. But before we get all misty-eyed about our legend number one, let's talk about the League Cup group stage that we had to get through over the last couple of weeks there. Obviously, you and I got together in the last episode and we spoke about a couple of the games, and there's been a couple since then. Rather than rattle through all the games, like you said, we went to the Dumbarton game, which proved to be quite a comfortable evening's work. What did you have any thoughts in general overall from the League Cup group stage? Anything that kind of stood out to you?
I think the obvious thing that jumped out is the set pieces. I can't remember the last time I saw Heart of Midlothian score as many goals from set pieces in a season, let alone over the course of 4 games. 16 goals in 4 games as well. What a return that was. We only conceded once in the group stage of the League Cup. It is night and day of difference from where we were toward the end of pre-season a year ago. So if anything jumps out, it's just that cause for optimism. There is reason to be cheerful as we head into the new campaign. The new signings seem quite lethal at their best. Braga, I think, especially, has shown himself to have a keen eye for goal. Great instinct as well. Kizaridis as well. It looks like he's going to be a fantastic signing. And also toward the back end, you've got your Stuart Findlays. Stuart Findlay, I feel, has shown himself to be very, very solid at the back still. I think he'll be a great addition to this defence. Harry Milne has stepped up in a big way in the first few games, and it looks like Derek McInnes has a couple different systems that he's going to look to use. But it certainly feels like he knows exactly how he wants to use them and who he wants to use in them, which is great news. So yeah,
Yeah,
the long version of that story. The short version is reasons to be cheerful because we look like we can score goals again, and we aren't leaking goals at the back against subpar opposition like we did last year.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that kind of adds to what I was about to say. To be honest with you, I don't think I can add much more than that. I think, like you said, the set pieces was a marked improvement, and the set piece coach's name has gone out of my head, but I'm going to have to remember it because I feel like he's
Ross
going to get a lot
Grant.
of credit. That's it. He's going to get a lot of credit as the season goes on. In fact, I think today at the friendly against Sunderland, I think Derek McInnes turned around and high fived him after Shanklin's goal. But we'll get into that as we go. Um, but yeah, like you say, it just shows the work on the training ground and the work that's been put in behind the scenes is obviously paying off, and the players are obviously taking to it. There we go. Aye, Ross Grant, for anyone that needs to remember, his name's Ross Grant. There we go. I'm just. Can we just flash that up every time Hearts score a set piece this season? Whenever we need to talk about them, will be Ross Grant FC by the end of the season. But yeah,
There's
like
the episode title for this week, Ewan.
Ross Grant FC. Yep, that's it. That's it. Done. Ewan's gonna have to find a picture of him on Google as well. We're gonna have to figure that one out. But just a guy standing in the shadows with a wee notebook for his
Yeah,
set piece.
football manager, man. He could be football manager, man.
Good point. But no, I mean, in general, like you said, I don't have too much to add on the League Cup group stages. Obviously, every game that we played against, or every team that we played against, we should be winning as handsomely as we did. And I think, the fact that we turned up and every game, okay, there were some games that were better than others, but every game we handled it in a professional manner, and that is something that is massive because these games can be early season banana skins, and you have to be aware of that. But the new guys, like you say, have all come in and impressed. Again, we'll kind of touch on them as we go through the episode. But yeah, it's just nice, and there's reasons, like you say, reasons to feel optimistic ahead of the season starting. I refuse to get carried away, even though earlier on in our WhatsApp group chat, I declared that we're winning the treble, and you can give us the Scrabble World Champions trophy as well while you're at it. Um, but yeah, I try not to get carried away, and I think the League Cup is a perfect. And I've said this before. I don't know whether it was on here or on the socials, but I feel like the League Cup was a perfect starting point for us this season. Of course, I'd rather be in Europe. There's no denying that. I would certainly rather be away in some exotic place rather than playing at home against a Barton. But do you know what? You take what you get, and I have to say the new players have come in, and I think I spoke to you about it at the Dumbarton game, that the physical challenge that these teams posed on us would have been something that the new guys will need to get used to, and they'll need to get used to that when they come up against Aberdeen and all the teams obviously that we have to play from then on. But it's a good introduction to Scottish football for these guys. Not too difficult in terms of quality of opposition, but certainly teams like Dunfermline, they certainly didn't give us an easy job. They put themselves about quite a lot, but we overcame that, and I think that's a big testament to them as well, to our new players rather. So yeah, the League Cup group stage obviously finished with us topping the group, and we will be seeded for tomorrow's draw. Again, time of recording, this is Saturday evening. The draw for the next round of the Premier Sports Cup gets made tomorrow, so by the time this episode goes live, you will all know who we've drawn. So I'm not going to really say too much more on that. But yeah, a nice preseason, a good preseason, a productive preseason, I think is the way I would put it, has come to a close after today's game. It's so much better than last preseason. I was looking it up, and the final game of preseason last year, we lost 3-0 away against Fleetwood, and I think people kind of underestimate just how important a preseason is in terms of results. I know it's all about fitness and minutes in the legs and things like that, but getting results and positive results and scoring goals makes a massive difference.
It does. It makes all the difference. It makes a world of difference, and I think that we've seen that. Joel Sked actually brought up that 3-0 loss to Fleetwood Town on commentary today during the Craig Gordon testimonial game. It was a bit of a nightmare start last year. We've talked about this. We talked about this at the time on the podcast, Alan. The fact that the trip to Spain last year was so markedly different than the one that they had this year. They seemed to be just kind of hanging about poolside and chatting about each other's favourite colour and stuff. Whereas it looks like Derek McInnes really worked them hard and gave them a good session every day. A couple of friendlies as well while they were over there, which was good.
Definitely.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think that, like you said, the League Cup action in the group stage is not ideal from either a monetary standpoint or a reputational standpoint. But I think that on this occasion and this season of all seasons, I think that we have lucked out by being in the group stage because it gave us that chance to bed everyone into competitive football before the season starts proper. And it helps that we had a proper pre-season. On top of that, we've seen the results. We've scored 16 goals in 4 games. We've only conceded once. And we have seen so much improvement even from some of the guys that were there last year. A guy like Halkett, who is staying healthy, which is great to see. Ditto Kingsley. Milne, who's really stepped up into that left back role. Shankland looks like a different player. James Wilson seems to have stepped things up another notch, which is amazing to see considering how good he was last season. He was one of the few bright spots. And Cammy Devlin, I think, is someone as well who stands out, who has certain tools that we've known him for, but I feel as though he's added more to that. So I'm very excited to see where this team can go from here. Yeah, it's a massive, massive difference from last year.
Yeah, and obviously the transfer business not yet done. Kabore is obviously, hopefully, not too far away, but Andrew McKinley said that in his quarterly update, which I took to have a marked, certainly less stressful look on his face as he did compared to the last quarterly update that he had to do. He seemed a lot more relaxed and a lot more chilled out this time, which I can totally get and I totally understand. But obviously, he spoke about Kabore not being too far away, but I think they're probably just still waiting for some paperwork. I would imagine it'll probably be early next week that he'll be announced, or early this week when you come to watch this and listen to this. So that'll add another tool to the forward line. There will be some inevitable outs. I think we all know that. Obviously, there was one today. Aidan Denham securing a move to Livingston. Now, I felt like that's a perfect move for him. I know we've kind of spoken about it previously, and I kind of said, well, I wouldn't mind Aidan Denham getting loaned out rather than sold. But do you know what? If he was going to be sold, I'd want it to be to the right club, and I think Livingston certainly is that club. I think Martindale's the perfect manager for him at this point. I think, you know, Denham came in and I'm not going to say he proved himself good enough for a Heart squad because I think if he did, he'd still be here. But he proved himself a pretty dependable SPFL top flight player. And I think going to Livingston gives him that opportunity to obviously stay in the top flight, which is something I'm sure he would have wanted to do. And yeah, it's a good move for all parties concerned. I think at the end of season episode that we did when we were doing the keep and sell segment, I'm pretty sure I said for the good of his own career, he needs to go. And I think that's kind of the stamp of this transfer. I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I think you absolutely nailed it when you said that. I think Aidan Denham is a guy who obviously has a lot of potential. He's shown it in fits and starts, but he has never gotten the playing time at Hearts that he's going to need to really progress. And he's not likely to get it, quite frankly, is the unfortunate truth of it. Not everyone is going to be a fit for the future. And he's one of those guys. He's obviously a very talented young footballer, and I wish him all the absolute best. I think Livingston is a really good move for him. And as we've seen in just recent years, we've signed a few guys from Livingston that have turned out to be pretty important players for us. Obviously, the most notable being Craig Halkett a few years back.
I thought you were going to say Alan Forrest.
Well, there's Alan Forrest as well. They are a club
right.
that knows how to get the best out of talented young players. So you never know where he could end up going from Livingston if he sort of shows the potential that he quite clearly has. A good move for both sides, I think.
Yeah, I would say so, and it'll certainly not be the last player exiting. I'm sure there'll be a few more lined up in the not too distant future
Yeah,
with the end of pre-season and sort of the beginning of the competitive season on Monday, Monday the 4th of August against Aberdeen is when we kick off our Premiership season. So I'm sure there'll be a little bit of movement between now and then, and I'm sure there'll be some names that will be heading out the door, just because obviously they've not seen the minutes that maybe they wanted to, or McInnes just hasn't really been overly impressed. I think Andrew McKinley sort of alluded to the fact that there are some players that are surplus to requirements. So for him to come out saying that, you would suggest that those players have perhaps been told and that they are surplus to requirements and they can look for moves elsewhere, which I think is probably why Eden Denham has been moved on. And as I say, I'm sure more will follow him, but
yeah.
we will keep you updated. And I'm sure, across the socials, we'll give our opinions on players that come and go. There was talk of a new arrival, or certainly a bid, and I'll just kind of make this quick. It was for an Icelandic midfielder whose name has completely escaped me just as I was about to start talking about him. So, as professional as ever, I'm going to try and find it. Essentially, he's from Iceland and he wears a headband and he plays in midfield. So that kind of sums it up. That's all you really need to know about him. I'm hoping that John is looking him up for me. But Hearts have supposedly submitted an offer for him, and we will wait and see what happens. 22 years old, 6'2", plays in midfield. Can't remember his name. John, are you going to help me out?
I am checking for it now.
Put it this way: he was described by some as a Peter Haring regen. Whether you feel we need a Peter Haring regen or not, considering our midfield options at the moment, that's by the by. But from the sort of brief clips that I've seen of him, he looks like he's got a forward pass in him. He looks like he's a bit more of that sort of. I think Derek McInnes referred to it as a midfielder that's like a box crashing midfielder that obviously will come in and join in attacks in the box. And yeah, like I said, that's probably the one piece of the jigsaw that we're perhaps missing at the moment, because a lot of our midfield options are quite samey, I would suggest, and the ones that aren't, I don't really know where they fit in. The Khartoums, the Spittles, the Dandas, I'm not entirely sure what their roles look like, so they could be players that could potentially end up moving in the not too distant future. Also,
Danda is one in particular that I could potentially see going. I think Musa is quite obviously surplus to requirements at this point.
yeah,
The fact that we only had Forrest as a right winger until the new boy came in, Kyrgiota, and we didn't have Musa anywhere near the field at any point, is pretty
yeah,
suggestive. Is Thomas Bent Magnuson is the
yeah.
young fella from Iceland that is
I've just
apparently here
noted
to
it.
try and steal our glorious Austrians' crown as headband wearer in chief. But that's
Well,
not going to happen. We won't let that happen, will we, Alan?
absolutely not. Absolutely not. It doesn't matter how glorious he is and the fact he wears a headband. He will never, ever, ever take that throne away from the glorious Peter Haring. But yeah, I think, like I say, I'm not going to go too much into transfers and stuff because obviously that is a thing that will continue for weeks to come because the window doesn't close until the end of August. So we've still got a little while to go on that. But there may well be some movement on Thomas Bent Magnuson over the next couple of weeks, hopefully. But yes, on to the main event that we're going to talk about today, and we'll kind of, as I say, this is the point where I kind of hand it across to yourself, John, because the Craig Gordon testimonial took place today at Tynecastle Park in front of an attendance of 17,756, I think it was, off the top of my head. Um, a fantastic attendance for a man that deserved the attendance and deserved the acclaim that he got from obviously ourselves and Sunderland, a side that he spent a good few years at and enjoyed himself. And I think made a lasting impression on the Sunderland fans based off the fact that 3,000 of them jumped on the train
Yep.
and came up to take in today's game. I didn't see the game. I wasn't there. I was unfortunately at work today, so I wasn't able to watch it. However, John took one for the team and managed to sit down and watch the game today. So I'll hand over to you for your sort of general thoughts, and I'll chime in with bits and pieces that I've picked up over the last few hours since I've got home.
Yes, I picked up the PPV. I wasn't able to go because I had other commitments today, but I did manage to steal away a couple of hours to stick on the pay per view of the Craig Gordon testimonial. What can you say about Craig Gordon? He is probably the greatest Hearts player of our lifetime. Um, he is probably, I think, inarguably the greatest goalkeeper to ever play for Hearts. It's one of the greatest Scottish goalkeepers to ever play the game, if not the best, quite frankly. When you look at the legacy he has of how young he was when he came through and won awards, got the, at the time, British records transfer for a goalkeeper at £9 million when he was in his early 20s, inducted into the Hearts Hall of Fame at the age of 24, won several league titles and cups with Celtic. And this is after, I believe, his second career-ending injury. He also had a potentially career-ending injury at Celtic and didn't let that stop him. He came back to Hearts and he has been fantastic ever since, and has come back from yet another career-ending injury to manage to see his testimonial year at 42 years old. The man is just extraordinary, and if we were to sit here and try and sum up what Craig really means to us as Hearts fans growing up when we did, we would probably be here all night. So we'll leave it at that, I think. He's my all-time favourite Hearts player. He's one of the main reasons I became a Hearts fan. And he deserved nothing less than what he got today. Had a hell of a game. Came on from the start, led the team out as captain. Had a great game, clean sheet
Yeah.
for all of the 30 seconds he was on the pitch. But probably the right move. He did say in his post-match interviews and stuff that the medical team were pretty strictly against him playing any more than that. Although, as he did joke, he probably could have played the latter part of the second half because Xander wasn't exactly busy. Side note, great to see Xander back between the sticks as well. He looked very comfortable. He seems to have shaken off the injury issues that he's had. Great game today. What a surprise result that was. We defeated newly promoted Premier League side Sunderland by 3-0. It was not a scoreline that flattered us either. We were the better team by a comfortable distance. In the early stages, it looked like Hearts were quite happy to let Sunderland keep hold of the ball. Sunderland didn't do a particularly great job of that, though. And as the game went on, I could see Hearts getting more and more confident. The first goal was scored by Claudio Braga on about 10 minutes. He managed to nod home a deflected cross, which I think, again, really speaks to his instinct for goal, because the cross did take a bit of it was misdirected, or redirected rather. He managed to sort of adapt to that and managed to slot it home with his head. Shanklin scored an absolute beauty from the edge of the box, a first-time shot from a low drive into the centre of the park off a corner. It was a short corner, and then the ball was played back, and then the low ball toward the edge of the area. Shanklin, first time, just absolutely, it was a phenomenal hit. If you haven't seen that goal, look up the goals from the Sunderland game. It was phenomenal. And then, of course, Kizaridis wrapping things up 5 minutes from time. The Kizaridis goal was a shambles at the back from Sunderland. A really badly mistimed pass toward the 6-yard area. I'm not really sure who it was meant for. Presumably it was intended as a pass back, but Kizaridis jumped all over it, and it was an easy finish from there. Basically a tap-in. Hearts were tremendous. The second half especially. I thought that Stuart Findlay was a standout for me. He was tremendous at the back. Milne was tremendous again. McEntee was put in a really great shift. Shankland looks like himself again. He was phenomenal. At times he was playing deeper due to the system. They played the 3-5-2 system. So he wasn't up the park as much as you would probably want him to be in a normal day, but he still managed to get a goal, and he did a fantastic job in there. Beyond that, not really sure what else to say. It was just a phenomenal day. And to get a 3-0 win, and especially that clean sheet, Findlay, on the day of the Craig Gordon testimonial, pretty special result that, although it means nothing in the grander scheme, that will give them so much confidence. And I think it shows that the group stage of the Premier Sports Cup hasn't just been a smokescreen or a mirage. Like, this Hearts team might actually be really good. Like, I think we have a lot of attacking options going forward, and all of them are hungry to find the back of the net. And we also have a much sturdier back line. Like I say, Stuart Findlay, I think, adds a lot to this team. Kent was getting a lot of plaudits as well, and rightly so. Just a really solid performance back at the back, and a tremendously fruitful one going forward.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much sums it up. I mean, as I say, I haven't been able to watch the game yet, but I've seen the goals and a few sort of standout performers and things. And I think Derek McInnes spoke before the game about how much more of a test it'll be in terms of comparing it to the League Cup group stages and sort of saying, these games are these games, but Sunderland is a different level, of course. And he's right, of course he is. But I think his sort of reasons for that were, it'll be interesting to see how we are in a game where we are effectively the underdog, because for the League Cup group stages we've been the favourites, and then on paper at least, putting us up against a Sunderland side, like you say, that have been promoted into the English Premier League and spent upwards of 120 million on new talent over the last few weeks. On paper at least, you would suggest that we would be the underdog, but he kind of spoke about the fact that Sunderland are a possession-based team that like to keep the ball, like to move it around, so it would be up to us to deal with that. But from what you say and from what others that have watched the game that I've kind of read and listened to say, there wasn't a great deal of that. You mentioned there about how sort of wasteful they were with the ball and how much we kind of pressed them and got in their faces. And I think that is going to be the hallmark of Derek McInnes' side in the bigger games. I think, realistically, it has to be a hallmark of all the games. We have to be hungry to get the ball back and hungry to keep it and do things with it when we have it. But, I've heard a lot of praise for McEntee today, and just his relentless pressing and his relentless aggressive pressing of the ball, which is what we bought him for. Realistically, why he's been brought into the team is to do that. And obviously his involvement was what set up the first goal. He won the ball back, and then he had a 1-2 with Shankland, I think it was, and then he whipped across, and then Braga, like you say, was there to head it home. Braga is quickly becoming a fan favourite, not just for his celebration. I think he's just a generally likeable character. But I think you and I said it at the Dumbarton game that we might not have these players for very long, so we should enjoy them while we've got them. Apologies if you can hear a dog barking outside there. It's my new puppy is having a bit of a moment. But yeah, she's just excited about the Hearts as well. But having that. Are you done? Sorry. I've lost my train of thought now. It's like you say, it's nice to see us scoring goals and winning games in a certain way. We seem to be just very strong and not rolled over in any way. And I know, listen, Sunderland are obviously weeks behind us in terms of their pre-season preparations and their fitness and things like that. They will be behind us, but there's no substitute for what we did today, and that's hard work.
I think it's also worth pointing out, though, Sunderland have played both Sporting and Sevilla over in Portugal. They've played some pretty top sides already this summer. They haven't been having a kick about with, Dagenham and Reds. They've been playing some pretty top teams in their pre-season matches. So they should still, in theory or on paper, be doing a job against our Hearts. They really didn't today. Based on just the evidence I've seen today, I would be quite worried if I was a Sunderland fan, because they were not great. Like you say, Hearts pressed them fantastically. I think that really harks back again to the training camp in Spain and how different it was this year. The players are quite visibly a lot fitter. They are lasting longer, they are running faster, and they are stronger. And we are seeing that paying off already. I'm really so excited for the start of the new season, probably more so than I have been in a while. And it's great to be able to say that after such a disappointing season last year. But yeah, to your point about Braga, he does seem like a character. He's got a hell of a lot of personality. He plays with personality, and you can tell that rubs off on the people around him. The fans have already taken to him really, really well, as you say. And you made the comment about his celebration. I'm not a massive fan of the celebration itself, but the more I see it, the more I'm going to like it, because if I keep seeing it, it means he keeps scoring goals. But, the whole, as a quick aside, folks, the debate between Messi and Ronaldo, it is a pointless debate, because Maradona is the greatest of all time. Period.
Fair enough.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. You can pick up a pamphlet on the way out.
Again, we talk about things we could be here all night talking about. I'm sure we could be here all night talking about that. But just before we move on to our segment about predictions, I just wanted to kind of fire a few bits at you. We've seen all of our new players get some minutes over the pre-season campaign, the Premier Sports Cup, and then obviously today against Sunderland. Who for you stands out as a player to really watch? And I mean, this could be leading on to our predictions in terms of who we think a player of the season, etc., is going to be. But who have you been most impressed with so far in a Hearts jersey?
So I think most of the attention is probably on Braga because he's more of a goal scorer, but I think that Kizaridis has actually shown me more in less time. I'm more excited to see more of Kizaridis than anyone else. I feel like when he really gets going, I don't think he's quite there yet. When he gets to full fitness and when he gets his legs under him and starts to play full matches, I think we're going to see something really special in that in Kizaridis. I'm also massively fond of the Findlay signing. Based on what I've seen of him, he's just such an assured defender. Um, and after we lost Penrice and we lost Kai Rolls through the season, I do feel like we still needed to add more veteran heads to the back line. Of course, we lost Jamie McCart for a fairly long term injury as well. So, yeah, Finlay has been tremendous, but for me, the biggest one for me so far is Kizaridis.
Yeah, that's fair. I was going to throw Kizaridis in as well, which again will not surprise anyone because you and I tend to agree on most things.
Yes.
I will suggest, based off of today's performance, that Ocean McKenty could be a player to really keep an eye on as the season progresses if he gets to grips with Scottish football, which, given his stature in terms of his physical appearance and his physical just presence, he seems to have all the tools in his locker to deal with Scottish football and the physical nature of it. But obviously, we've seen him very briefly playing in central midfield. He's been covering it right back and kind of been shifted here, there, and everywhere during pre-season and the League Cup group stage. Versatility is a big thing. It's a big positive. But obviously, seeing him today, hearing him today, playing in midfield against Sunderland and his performance, he looks like he could be a player for me. But yeah, Kizaridis would be my top choice. But it feels very not strange. It's the wrong word, but it feels good to be looking at our signings and saying, you know what, I can see why they've all been brought in to the football club and what they will all bring. I say that knowing full well that this time last year I said we had a brilliant summer of recruitment and we ended up finishing 7th.
We did on
so I'm
paper,
not.
to be fair.
Yeah.
On paper, we had brought in several guys who had been proven at the SPL level. It wasn't the signings in the summer recruitment that we had that was the biggest issue. Although it was an issue in the end, because it wasn't
Yeah.
so much the players; it was the system that those players have been signed to play in. Whereas the players that we've brought in this year have been brought in for the purpose of playing in McInnes's system, and you can already see that working.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that. I think with this sort of being the first summer window of the Jamestown recruitment analysis and all that, you can see that these guys have been recruited for certain purposes, as you say, and it's not a square pegs and round holes scenario. It is Derek McInnes saying, I want a midfielder that does X, I want a winger that does Y, I want a striker that does Z, and the computer's going out, finding these players and going, right, here's your list, bring them in, and that looks very obvious at the moment. So yeah, a lot of positivity, a lot of reasons to be positive, which is just a very nice feeling to have. Obviously, like you say, Craig Gordon lasting all of 30 seconds on the pitch. I was very happy to see
So
him.
that's about as long as I would last with Craig Gordon, mate. I'm not going to lie.
Jesus, I set you up for that one there without even meaning to. It was nice to see him leading the team out. It was nice to see
Yes.
him there with his family and getting the guard of honour and all that. It's like you say, I'm not going to go into too much on Craig Gordon because you kind of covered all the bases, and yeah, he's just an icon, an absolute icon, and I very much doubt that we will see a Hearts player get a testimonial for many, many years to come. So that could very well be the last one that we see for a long, long time. And yeah, it's just fitting that, like you say, we kept a clean sheet on the day of his testimonial. But yeah, do you have anything else? Any other Sunderland observations to note while I go and try and attempt to calm this puppy down in a minute?
It was a great atmosphere from the beginning of the game until the end, and I feel that that's great to see. It's good to have that Tynecastle roar back. And massive shout out as well, as you pointed out, to the Sunderland fans. They brought, I think, 3,000 people with them, which is a fantastic travelling support for a friendly. It talks to the impact that Craig Gordon has made in his career, not only at Hearts but anywhere else that he's gone. He won the Premier League Save of All Time award for that save that he made in 2010, playing for Sunderland. So he is obviously very well regarded down there as also. And yeah, just a fantastic game. Obviously, Sunderland not at the races. I had expected when we went in at 1-0 at half time that Sunderland would really kick it up a couple of notches in the second half. And in actual fact, it was us that kicked it up a couple more notches in the second half. It was just a delight to see. There's not much more to say. We won 3-0 against Sunderland, and it was a wonderful day. It didn't rain, and Craig Gordon got his guard of honour and played for 30 seconds. It was good to see him back on the pitch.
I did enjoy his after-match remarks where he said he'll get to share the clean sheet bonus with Zander Clark. I thought that was quite fitting.
Yeah. Whose clean sheet bonus is it though? Does it count? Zander's probably like, here, can we? Because you started the game, it should really be your clean sheet bonus, because I'm assuming his is probably higher than Zander's.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong there. Maybe they'll split it 50-50 or something, or
maybe
Craig will buy him a pint or something. But yeah, just a
Clark
fitting
was fantastic. Actually, he wasn't tested much, but he was brilliant when he was brought into play.
Yeah, and like you said a little while ago there, it's nice to see Zander Clark back in between the sticks. Obviously, he's had his injury issues throughout pre-season, and we've seen Ryan Fulton playing. So again, it's nice to have goalkeepers that are all capable, and they don't seem to have really a weak one in the bunch, which is quite nice.
They seem to have a competitive drive between them, but without the ego. There's not an ego thing going on there. If Zander doesn't get the start because Gordon gets it, he's not going to start crying about it. If Zander's starting, you don't see Craig Gordon's not stropping. Fulton waits patiently for his chances, takes them when he gets them. If Fulton then keeps the job, you don't see Zander looking miserable. The three of them seem to get on really well. And while it's obviously disappointing not to get to play, there doesn't seem to be any sort of rivalry between them. There's competition, but they seem like they seem to be really enjoying that competition and driving each other to be better.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think just before we sort of move on to predictions, I'll kind of give my thoughts on that. I think Zander just comes across as a really good guy to have around the place. Like, he seems to just be a bit of a laugh, a bit of a joke, but also actually quite a good goalkeeper. And they all just seem to be nice guys. I think that kind of feeds into that point that you're making, in terms of they're all just kind of happy for each other, to see each other playing, and it's nice to have that. Obviously, like you say, there will be that competitive edge in the background, but yeah, whoever gets the gloves against Aberdeen, I'm kind of sitting there going, well, if it's Fulton or if it's Clark, I'll be happy for whoever it is. It's not going to be Gordon. Let's say that.
No,
but
it won't be.
Whether it's Clark or Fulton, I'll be quite happy, because I feel like they're both solid and dependable goalkeepers, and we've seen that throughout pre-season. So with that, we will move on to, as I said at the start, the segment that always generates a bit of conversation in the comment sections, because we are usually ridiculously wrong, and that will be our pre-season predictions. Now, we're going to do them slightly differently this year to avoid some level of embarrassment. We've come up with some corkers in recent seasons, which I'll roll through just so that you get an idea of how wrong we can be. I famously said that I would not pay £500,000 for Lawrence Shankland. I did not feel he was worth that much, and I have eaten humble pie ever since. I'm sure Ewan's had a few stinkers, but at the moment I can't think of them, and because he's not here with us today at this point, I'm going to spare him. John, I'm going to throw you under the bus, though, because the corker from you was that Kenneth Vargas could be the new Rudy Scaccio. So
not my finest hour.
That's the level of quality that we have in our predictions. Not exactly Mystic Meg over here, but do you know what? You've got to have a bit of fun with it. So we've got a few predictions, and I actually managed to get some from Ewan. On those people that have asked, Ewan is just taking some time off at the moment over the next few weeks, just for health reasons. Nothing to worry about, and he's told me, I can explain, I can say that. I'm not going to go into details because, of course, it's not my story to tell. But Ewan will be back, hopefully in the not too distant future. But at the moment, he's just taking a wee step back just to focus on himself and get himself in order. But he did grace us with his predictions, so he's not got off lightly to not give them. But I will fire the first one at you, John. And as I say, folks, comment along in the comment section down below and reach out to us on the socials if you're listening on Spotify with your predictions to these, and you can come along for the ride with us and be hopefully correct as the season goes on, but more than likely incredibly wrong, as is our record. So, John, the first one. How many players will score more than 10 goals this season? Now, this was across all competitions, might I add.
Given the start we've had and the fact that we have multiple people who are like almost a third of the way there already, I'm going to say we will have 4 10-plus goal scorers.
Okay.
Shankland, I'm assuming Shankland will get there. I think Braga will get there. I think there's a chance that Kizaridis gets there. And either of James Wilson or Cabangu might get there. It's more likely to be Wilson, but Cabangu's already got a couple, so like it could be him as well. It could end up being, but yeah, that's my prediction there.
Perfect. Well, Ewan's prediction was 4 players as well, and he stated Shankland, Braga, Kizaridis, and Cabangu was his 4. I'm going to say 3 just to be different, just because I feel like if we all say 4, it's a bit dull.
Is this a 2 against 1, and it's Ewan and I against you? Alan, what has happened to us?
I'm going cautious. I'm hoping, put it this way, I'm hoping you're right.
Talk about a bombshell start to the new season.
I am going to go with Lawrence Shankland to hit more than 10 goals. I am going to say that James Wilson will score more than 10 goals. And I am going to say that who's going to be my third? It's going to be Claudio Braga, isn't it? It's going to be Braga. We're going to have that Sue celebration constantly. And like you said earlier, the more he does it, the more I'll enjoy it because it means he's scoring goals. I would say that a defender might score more than 10 goals. That could be a little outside shout, but Frankie
with the set pieces, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
This is my thing, but Frankie Kent has a 50p heed and can't attack a set piece to save his life. Finlay has shown that he can, and
Ross Grant. I tell you what, if we get 10 goals out of Kent this year, Ross Grant deserves his pay to be doubled.
Mate, if we get 10 goals...
I hope that him and his agent have said that to Hearts when they were signing him. I hope he's been like, right, but I want a clause in my contract that I get like 100% wage rise if I can get 10 goals out of Kent from set pieces.
Mate, if he gets 10 goals out of Frankie Kent from set pieces, he gets a statue in the plaza, not just a pay rise.
Aye. Yeah, he'll be right there alongside Andy Halliday in Boise.
And Forrest. We're building a Mount Rushmore outside.
Forrest, outside Forrest is still active. Forrest hasn't left yet.
For all the better. Don't talk to me about Alan Forrest leaving the club. Don't talk to me about that. Yeah, I mean, I could do these solo. I could do these solo for the next few weeks, John. Don't talk to me about Forrest leaving.
please do, mate. I'll go play Death Stranding too. I've got things to do.
You've got places to be. I know you're a busy man. Right, next question. Will Lawrence Shankland reach the 100 goals tally this season? Now, obviously, it's documented that he said that he would love to hit 100 goals for Hearts. He is less than 30 goals away. I think it's about 28, 29 now, maybe 28, 27, maybe after today. But yeah, do you think that Lawrence Shankland will reach the 100 goal tally this season?
I think he's going to fall just short. I don't think that he's going to finish this season with 30 plus goals. I think he'll score 26, 27 goals if he manages to keep up the form he's been on in pre-season and during the League Cup group stages. But it is asking a hell of a lot of any player to bang in 30 plus goals in 3 out of 4 seasons. I think it's worth remembering that we didn't have a guy score 30 goals for close to 40 years before Shankland did it. There's a reason for that. It's extremely difficult to do. I also think that he's just surrounded by so much talent this year that the goals are going to be more spread out. He's not going to be, and I mentioned this on Wednesday night to you, he's not going to be as pressured to play 90 minutes every week. He can come off after an hour like he did on Wednesday, and he knows that whoever's coming on is a replacement and not somebody that's just getting chucked on because they have nobody else. Yeah, I can see him banging in 26, 27 goals if he can keep up the form that he's had early. And I think that the floor for this year is going to be 18 to 19 goals. I think he's going to have a really good season. But we also have to dial back what we think is a really good season as pertains to Mr.
Yeah,
Shankland. If he
yeah.
scores 18 goals, that's a really good season for a Hearts player.
It's double what he got last year, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. But he's definitely got it in his locker to score more, and there's the possibility that he does reach the 100 this year. I think he'll fall slightly short.
Yeah, I won't spend too long on this because Ewan predicted exactly the same as you. He says he'll just fall short. Thinks he'll probably end the season with between 90 and 95 career goals for Hearts. And I would subscribe to that as well. I think providing he avoids injury, there is no doubt he can hit close to 20 goals. But obviously, we'll have to wait and see how that goes. I personally, my prediction, I don't see him hitting the 100 goal tally this year. But again, I'd love to be proven wrong. And I mean, if we're going to score 4 goals every week, then there's a distinct possibility he could do it. But yes, and the next one, the next prediction, let me just bring it up here. It was, these are the pretty bog standard ones. Where will we finish in the league from the season 25-26? Our league finishing position. John, do you want to go ahead with your prediction first?
I think it's very easy to carry the weight at a time like this because we have been so good in the last few competitive matches, and then we've just scudded a Premier League team. So it's very easy to get carried away. I don't want to get carried away, but I do think we're going to have a great season. I think we'll finish third.
Okay. Well, Ewan has suggested fourth is his prediction. I didn't ask him who he thought would finish above us. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. But yeah, he said fourth. I'm going to agree with you. I think third is achievable, and I think I wanted to kind of mention this earlier, but I got distracted by a dog barking. But I think the size of our squad is something that has been kind of mentioned quite a lot recently. Obviously, it is rather on the large side, but and I mentioned this to yourself earlier on with the 5 subs rule in the Scottish Premier League. We've said for a long time Celtic and Rangers have the depth to be able to bring on 3 match winners off the bench if they're not playing well. No other team in Scotland has that, and I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that we carry a 30-man squad because that'll allow us to do that. But having quality options off the bench is massive. And, I've lost count of the number of times that I've said to yourself, I've said to you, and I've said to lots of people that our bench is not good enough. Our bench doesn't have game changers on it. Our bench is just players that are all very much of the same standard.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that at the moment. I feel like this group of players, like you said about the goalkeepers, is very competitive amongst each other. They're all fighting for 11 places,
And that's just the kind of environment that Derek McGuinness wants to foster at the club as well. He wants everybody to be hungry for playing time, and he wants everybody to push each other to be better. It's not about replacing somebody either. All the time, you want to start, but you don't always necessarily want to replace someone in the squad. You just want to push them
Exactly.
to earn it. It's like if you think that you should be starting above me, show me what you've got, because I'm ready to go out there and do the same to you.
Yeah.
And then they all kind of, everybody gets better that
Raises
way.
the bar. Yeah, it just raises the bar across the team, and I think that's the thing. And Derek McInnes spoke about, not actively kicking players out the door because he doesn't want to do that, and I don't think he'll have to do that, to be honest. I think if a player wants to stay at Hearts and fight for minutes, then they'll be welcomed. They're not going to be put on the sidelines and left in the stand all season. But obviously, as the weeks go on and then into January, there may well be some players that go, do you know what, I've not had enough minutes. I should probably go and look somewhere else. But yeah, I think, like you, I think third place is achievable, providing we have a good start. We saw Aberdeen last season have a brilliant start before they inevitably fell away due to, again, squad depth and just not having the options when they had injuries. And that ties back into what I'm talking about the size of our squad. So all of these things can be positives and hopefully will help us to finish third in the league, which is obviously our prediction, and we shall see how that one plays out. And the next question is, will we win a cup this season? I'll give you John's prediction. He thinks that we are going to win the Premier Sports Cup. He thinks the group stage, the 4 goals every week, is going to continue all the way to Hampden, and we're going to scud someone 6-0 in the final. He didn't say that, I've just added that in, but I'm sure he would have said that.
I think you mean Ewan's prediction there, yeah?
Yes, correct. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't think we'll win the Premier Sports Cup, but I'm going to regret this because I predicted us to win the Scottish Cup last year, but I genuinely think we have a very strong chance of winning the Scottish Cup this year. So I'm going to predict. I'm just going to be ballsy and bold, and going to say the same prediction again as last year. I think we'll win the Scottish Cup. We will win a cup.
I'm going to agree with you, and I'm going to say we're going to win the Premier Sports Cup because we've not won the fucking League Cup in years, and I'd quite like to win some silverware. So yeah, I'm going to go along with that. And the final prediction was who will win Player of the Season. Now, I have given this award to multiple people over the years that have either had season-ending injuries halfway through the season, or their form has fallen off a cliff after 2 games, or in fact, both of those things. Case in point, Gerald Taylor last season. So, yeah, I will give my Player of the Season this year, and I am going to go for the inevitable number 9, Lawrence Shankland. I think this season, like you say, I think this season he has increased competition around him, but I also think he has increased quality around him. And I think that will help him return to the heights that we've seen. And yeah, I think Lawrence Shankland will be our Player of the Season. Do you want to throw your prediction in if it's any different from mine?
He's also far more settled. He's happier. I think based on the comments that he's made in interviews when he signed the new contract, I think it was a stressful time for him last year. I think getting away for his honeymoon was probably the first time he'd managed to relax in I don't know how long. And you're seeing that in how he's played and how he's just carried himself since he got back. All this to say that I would concur with you, Alan. I think it's easy. It's almost a cop out, honestly. But I struggle to see anyone else taking that honour if Shankland stays healthy, because he is that great. He's shown that over the course of the first couple of seasons he was here, and the first few games that we've had in the pre-season, he has shown himself to be right back there again. So if he can keep up that sort of level of form, and the only 2 things that can stop him are himself or his health. Like if an injury happens, those are really the only 2 things that can stop him in my view. As long as he stays fit, he'll be comfortably our best player.
Yeah, I would agree. Ewan's prediction is an interesting one, actually. He has gone for one of the new boys. He has not gone for the Cristiano Ronaldo regen, Claudio Braga. He has gone for Takis Fisas' best pal, Alexandros Kizaridis, to be Player of the Season. So we shall.
You know what? Yeah, I could see it. As like I said earlier, he is the new signing that I'm the most excited about. I could see it if he shows. If he continues to show the potential that he has in just the sort of cameos he's had so far, once he finds his feet and once he's up to full fitness, I genuinely think that he could be exactly what Ewan is expecting from him. He looks like a phenomenal player.
Yeah, certainly in the like you say, in the cameos that we've seen of him so far, him and the rest of the new boys, like I said earlier, have all certainly shown what they're about. But yes, that wraps up our pre-season predictions, or season predictions rather. Our pre-season predictions would be quite easy to do since it's done already. But yes, that wraps up our season predictions. Up next, obviously, we have Aberdeen on the opening day of the Scottish Premiership season on the 4th of August. It's going to be quite a game, quite an atmosphere. Monday night, under the lights, Tynecastle, Derek McInnes, Aberdeen. Lots of narratives to write home about. Rather than sit here and rattle through a match preview, I'm just going to ask you for a scoreline prediction. I'm putting you on the spot.
Heart of Midlothian 2, Aberdeen 1.
Fair enough. We know it's a fixture that favours the home side, so hopefully that can continue.
Yeah. Shanks and Braga to score.
I like it. I'm going to go ballsy, and I'm going to go Hearts to score 2 and Aberdeen to score 0. I'm going for a 2-0 win for the Hearts to kick off our season. and we shall see where the next few weeks and months take us on this wonderful roller coaster that is Heart of Midlothian and the season 2025-2026. Hopefully, and fingers crossed, it's a hell of a lot better than last season. Certainly can't be much worse than that under Derek McInnes's stewardship.
Completely agreed. Yeah, although recent trends have suggested that we probably are in for an embarrassing display there with our prediction. We should have just said 4-0.
Aye, yeah. I mean, we're scoring 4 goals every week. I don't know why we didn't say that, to be honest. You know, I'm sure
I was tempted to, but Ewan would be like 4-0, mate.
I'm sure he would. I'm sure. In fact, I'm just going to throw that prediction in there for him. It's going to be 4-0.
Yeah.
That's it. It's going to be a bag of hat trick.
Ewan's official prediction that he's just sent us right now, honest, is 4-0.
Absolutely. Like I said, folks, please do feel free to fire your predictions and your scoreline predictions into the comment section below on YouTube. Any interaction down there, we will certainly do our very best to respond to, and just reach out to us if there's anything else at all that you want to discuss in the comments, or anything that struck you from our pre-season campaign, our Premier Sports Cup campaign, or in fact Craig Gordon's testimonial match today that we have not managed to cover. Yes, I will remember the name Ross Grant forever, and I'm sure I'll be singing his name from the terraces at Tynecastle if Frankie Kent manages to score more than 10 goals this season. I'm not, do you know what? I was going to say something, but I'm not the type of person. In fact, I'll say it. I was going to say if Frankie Kent scores 10 goals, I'll get Ross Grant's name tattooed on myself somewhere, but I'm not that guy. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it.
If Frankie Kent scores more than 10 goals, we'll get a screen printed t-shirt of Ross Grant's face for you to wear on the podcast all of next season. How about that?
That's much more my style. I'll do that. I'll see if Ewan's on board for doing the tattoo. That's his bag. I'll see if he wants to do that. But yes, folks, thank you so much for joining us, and roll on Monday the 4th of August, where we take on Aberdeen. Let's go. Let's get the season started in the best possible way. Thank you.
I have descended from bright light into almost complete darkness during the course of this show.
John has gone from sitting on the surface of the sun to sitting on the surface of the moon over the course of about an hour's worth of content this evening. But like I said, folks, whatever you're up to, enjoy. If you're going to the Aberdeen game, give it to Aldi. The players deserve it. The players need your support this season, and I'm sure they will appreciate it. But yes, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and join us next week for our thoughts and our reflections on the Aberdeen game. Take care.
Listen and subscribe on Spotify, and follow us on all our social medias.
I went for an hour without mentioning Spotify again. I am so bad. Yes, folks. Since I Was Young podcast on Spotify. John, you can stay for another week. Thank you. Take it easy, folks. Bye for now.